Look around your space. Do you see things that don't belong anymore? Old clothes, broken gadgets, clutter that no longer serves you, yet you keep them. Why? Because letting go feels uncomfortable. Now, take a step deeper. What about your mind? How much mental junk are you holding on to? Anger, regrets, the need for validation, fear of the unknown? You cling to them, believing they define you, when in reality they chain you down. A man stands in his room overwhelmed by the clutter, not just objects but memories, failures, grudges, expectations. He knows he should clean it up, but every time he tries he hesitates. Maybe I'll need this someday. Sound familiar? Life works the same way. You hold on to pain, grudges, and outdated beliefs, hoping they serve a purpose, but they don't. They consume your peace, drain your energy, and steal your power. You can't move forward while carrying unnecessary weight. Today, we change that. You will reclaim control. You will master your mind, stop resisting what you can't control, and build unshakable strength. This is not just philosophy, it's a strategy for life. Stay with me, and by the end of this video, you'll see why true power comes from what you're willing to let go of. Tell me in the comments, what's one thing you need to let go of right now? 1. Master your mind, or it will master you. Your mind is either your greatest weapon or your worst enemy. It can lift you up or bury you under the weight of your own thoughts. Most people don't realize this. They go through life reacting to everything, pulled in every direction by emotions they don't control. They think their anger is caused by someone's words, their anxiety by a situation, their frustration by circumstances. But that's a lie. Nothing outside of you has power over you unless you let it. The storm isn't in the world, it's in your head. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire, but his greatest battle was never against an enemy army. It was against his own impulses. He understood one truth. If you master your emotions, you master yourself. If you don't, you are a puppet, jerked around by every insult, setback, and fear. How many times have you let one small thing ruin your entire day? Someone cuts you off in traffic, and suddenly you're fuming. A rude comment lingers in your mind for hours. One missed opportunity makes you question everything. The truth is, it's not these events controlling you, it's your reaction to them. A man sits in his car, hands clenched around the steering wheel. Traffic is crawling, his patience thinning. Someone cuts him off, and in an instant, rage takes over. His heart pounds, his jaw tightens, his mind races with thoughts of retaliation. He honks, yells, tailgates. For what? A few seconds of control over another driver who doesn't even know he exists? This is how most people live. Controlled by impulse, slaves to reaction, prisoners of emotion. A man who cannot control himself in traffic cannot control himself in life. It's not about the car in front of you, it's about the mind inside of you. Now imagine a different man in the same situation. He sees the chaos, but remains still. He understands something the other does not. The driver in front of him is not the problem. His own lack of discipline is. So he does nothing. He lets it go. Not because he is weak, but because he is in control. Strength is not in reaction. Strength is in restraint. People often mistake silence for weakness, but it's the opposite. Weakness is being predictable, getting provoked every time, lashing out every time, losing control every time. A weak man's emotions dictate his actions. A strong man dictates his emotions. If you think this is small, think again. The man who trains himself to let go of small irritations builds the discipline to handle bigger storms. The one who can stay calm in the face of traffic, insults, and setbacks is the one who will remain unshaken when life truly tests him. Picture yourself holding a burning coal in your hand. You're furious, gripping it tightly, convinced that by holding on, you will make someone else suffer. But the only one burning is you. That's how anger works. That's how resentment works. And the only way to stop the pain is to drop the coal. Now ask yourself, how many times have you burned yourself over things you should have let go? How many times have you let someone else dictate your mood, hijack your focus, steal your peace? A Stoic doesn't allow that. A Stoic sees the emotion rising and chooses not to act on it. Not because they don't feel it, but because they refuse to be owned by it. Next time you feel that spark of rage, that wave of anxiety, that stab of insecurity, pause, observe, realize that the moment you react, you give away your power, and then choose differently. Because the man who masters his mind masters everything. 2. Accept reality. Stop fighting the uncontrollable. Imagine you are drowning. The more you struggle, the deeper you sink. You flail your arms, fight against the water, desperate to regain control. But control is an illusion. The harder you resist, the faster you go under. Then something shifts. You stop fighting. You go still. Instead of battling the current, you float, and suddenly you rise to the surface. Life works the same way. Most people live in a constant state of resistance, fighting the uncontrollable, refusing to accept what is, believing that if they just push harder, they can bend the world to their will. But what they don't realize is that their struggle is what's pulling them under. A man wakes up one morning to find an email in his inbox. His company is downsizing. After 15 years of service, he's out. No warning, no negotiation, just gone. The panic sets in. His mind races with questions. Why me? How could they do this? This isn't fair. He spends days, weeks, maybe months clinging to his anger, replaying the moment over and over as if somehow his frustration will rewrite reality. But it won't. Across town, another man gets the same email. He reads it, exhales, and then does something different. He moves on. Not because he doesn't care, but because he understands something fundamental. What's done is done. He doesn't waste energy resisting what he cannot change. He shifts his focus to what he can control, his skills, his mindset, his next move. Within a month, he has a better job, a new direction, and no lingering resentment weighing him down. Most people live like the first man, drowning in emotions they refuse to release. But real strength isn't about forcing the world to bend to your will. It's about knowing when to let go and redirect your power where it actually matters. Epictetus put it simply, do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happens the way it happens. Then you will be happy. In other words, stop resisting reality. Accept it. Work with it. Master yourself, not the uncontrollable. Picture yourself in a storm. The wind howls, the rain lashes down, the world is in chaos. You can scream at the sky, curse the storm, demand that it stop. Or you can adjust. You can find shelter, prepare, and adapt. The storm does not change, but your response does. And that makes all the difference. Now apply this to your life. How often do you resist things that are already set in stone? You get caught in traffic and waste energy being frustrated. Someone disappoints you, and you replay their actions in your head as if that will undo them. A deal falls through, and instead of moving forward, you dwell on the loss. But none of this changes the situation. It only drains you. A Stoic doesn't do this. A Stoic understands that life will unfold as it will, regardless of their feelings about it. They know the difference between what is within their control and what is not. And they refuse to waste energy on the latter. Next time you find yourself resisting, ask, does this serve me? Does my frustration fix anything? Or am I drowning myself in something I should be floating past? Because the man who learns to let go of the uncontrollable doesn't just survive, he rises above. 3. Make peace with uncertainty. It's the only certainty. You are walking a tightrope high above the ground. Below you is the unknown, failure, rejection, disaster. Your mind tells you to freeze, to cling to certainty, to wait until you're guaranteed a safe step forward. But life doesn't work that way. You either keep moving, embracing the uncertainty, or you fall. Most people fear what they can't control. They need assurance, a guarantee that things will go their way. They plan obsessively, trying to predict every outcome, as if life follows a script. But reality is different. Life is chaos. No amount of worry can change that. The Stoics understood this. Epictetus said, make the best use of what is in your power and take the rest as it happens. In other words, focus only on what you can control. Your effort, your discipline, your perspective. The rest, accept it, adapt, and move forward. I once knew a man who built his entire life around stability. Every decision was calculated, every risk avoided. He worked the same job for 20 years, stayed in the same town, kept the same routine. He thought he was in control, until the day he wasn't. His company shut down, his savings weren't enough. Suddenly, the safety he had spent his life constructing crumbled. He panicked. His world felt like it was collapsing because he had never trained himself to deal with change. Now contrast that with another man, one who never clung to certainty. He knew that life could shift at any moment, so he built resilience instead of comfort. He took risks, embraced new challenges, and learned to adapt. When the unexpected happened, he didn't break. He adjusted, adapted, and found a new path. While the first man drowned in fear, the second man thrived in the same storm. Uncertainty isn't the enemy. Fear of it is. Imagine standing at the edge of a dark tunnel. Most people hesitate, waiting for the light to appear before they step forward. But that's not how it works. The light comes only after you move. Life rewards action, not hesitation. Think about the biggest moments in your life. Did you know exactly how things would turn out? Probably not. Yet you moved forward. And that's the key. Progress doesn't come from knowing, it comes from doing. Most people waste their lives waiting for the perfect time. Waiting for fear to disappear. Waiting for certainty before they act. But life doesn't wait for them. While they hesitate, opportunities vanish. While they overthink, time slips away. A Stoic does not fear the unknown. A Stoic understands that certainty is an illusion and control is internal. They don't need everything to be predictable because they trust in their ability to handle whatever comes. They take the step before the light appears, knowing that strength is built through action, not comfort. So the next time you feel paralyzed by uncertainty, ask yourself, am I waiting for guarantees, or am I ready to move forward despite not knowing? Because the man who embraces uncertainty isn't just prepared for life, he owns it. 4. Stop chasing approval. It's a trap. You walk into a room, and before you even say a word, your mind is already working. What do they think of me? Do I look confident? Did I say the right thing? You adjust your tone, your posture, your words, all for one reason: approval. Most people spend their entire lives trapped in this cycle. They shape themselves based on what others might think, bending and twisting to fit expectations that shift like sand. And in doing so, they give away their power. The need for approval is a silent prison. The moment you base your self-worth on the opinions of others, you hand them control. You let them decide whether you are good enough, successful enough, respected enough. But here's the truth. No one is thinking about you as much as you think they are. People are too caught up in their own insecurities to be fixated on yours. Marcus Aurelius put it bluntly, "It never ceases to amaze me. We all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinions than our own." The Stoics understood that seeking external validation is a losing game. It makes you reactive, unstable, and weak. True freedom comes when you stop needing permission to be yourself. I once worked with a man who built his entire career around making people like him. He never said no. He took on extra projects, accepted unfair demands, and smiled through frustration. He believed that if he kept everyone happy, he would be valued. But what happened? They used him. They respected his work, but not him. And the moment he stopped being useful, he was replaced. Another colleague, though, was different. He was competent, direct, and unapologetically himself. He didn't seek approval. He focused on results. Some people liked him, some didn't, but it didn't matter. He was respected because he owned his space, and that made all the difference. Now, imagine this. You're in an art gallery, looking at a painting. Someone walks up next to you and scoffs, "That's awful." Another person chimes in, "No, it's brilliant." The painting doesn't change. It stays the same, unaffected by opinion. That's how you should be. Let them talk. Let them judge. You remain unmoved. When you let go of the need for validation, you take back your power. You stop wasting energy on approval and start investing it in mastery, discipline, and real growth. Think about how much of your life has been dictated by fear of judgment. How many opportunities have you hesitated on because you worried what others would say? How many times have you stayed silent, afraid of rocking the boat? The truth is, people respect those who stand firm far more than those who conform. A man who constantly chases approval is like a leaf in the wind, tossed in every direction, never standing still, never rooted in anything real. But a man who values his own judgment above external validation is like a mountain, strong, steady, unaffected by passing storms. One day, you'll look back on your life and realize that most of the opinions you worried about didn't matter. The people you tried so hard to impress have long since moved on. The judgments you feared carried no real weight, and all that time spent seeking validation was time wasted. Next time you catch yourself wondering what others think, pause. Ask yourself, do their opinions add value to my life? Or am I just chasing ghosts? Because the man who needs no approval cannot be controlled. 5. Choose your battles. Most aren't worth fighting. Not every fight is worth your time. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every battle leads to victory. Yet most people go through life fighting wars that don't matter. Battles of ego, petty arguments, and meaningless conflicts that drain their energy and distract them from what truly counts. You see it everywhere. A man gets offended over a stranger's words. Another spends hours online arguing with someone he'll never meet. A third allows a minor slight to ruin his entire day. And for what? None of it changes the outcome. None of it makes them stronger. It only robs them of control. A Stoic understands this. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You always have the option of having no opinion." In other words, you don't have to react to everything. You don't have to be pulled into every fight. The strongest man is not the one who wins the most battles. It's the one who knows which battles are worth fighting. I once knew a man who exhausted himself trying to prove he was right. Every disagreement turned into a war. Every criticism was an attack. He lived on edge, constantly justifying himself, defending his name, proving his worth. And in doing so, he lost something far greater, his peace. Another man I knew did the opposite. He mastered the art of indifference. When provoked, he smiled. When insulted, he walked away. He chose his battles with precision, engaging only when it served a purpose. And because of that, he moved through life with power. He wasn't ruled by his emotions, he ruled them. Think about the last time you argued over something meaningless. Did winning the argument make your life better? Or did it just leave you drained? Most conflicts in life are traps, designed to provoke, to pull you down, to steal your time. The man who takes the bait every time is not strong, he is predictable. The man who walks away when necessary, he is untouchable. Imagine standing in a room full of people shouting, each voice demanding to be heard. If you yell back, you become just another voice in the noise. But if you stand silent, unshaken, you rise above the chaos. People notice, they listen. And most importantly, you keep your control. A man who reacts to every challenge is like a dog chasing every car on the street, exhausted, directionless, constantly running but never getting anywhere. A lion, on the other hand, only moves when necessary. He doesn't chase every threat. He observes, he calculates, and he strikes only when it matters. That is the mindset of a Stoic. You are not obligated to defend yourself against every criticism. You are not required to engage in every argument. You are not a slave to other people's provocations. When someone insults you, let them. Their words only have power if you give them power. When someone tries to drag you into drama, step away. It dies the moment you stop feeding it. And when life presents real battles, ones that affect your principles, your loved ones, your values, fight with full force. But for everything else, let it go. A warrior does not swing his sword at every shadow. A king does not respond to every whisper. A wise man does not fight for things that do not serve him. So ask yourself, are you fighting battles that matter? Or are you just swinging in the dark? 6. Lower your expectations and gain freedom. Most of your frustrations don't come from reality. They come from your expectations. Your belief that life should go a certain way, that people should treat you a certain way, that outcomes should unfold in your favor. And when they don't, you suffer. You expect loyalty from others, and when betrayal comes, you feel broken. You expect recognition for your hard work, and when it doesn't arrive, you feel invisible. You expect success on your timeline, and when it delays, you feel like a failure. But ask yourself, did life promise you these things? A man who lives by expectations is a man constantly at war with reality. He resists what is, clinging to what he believes should be. But a Stoic understands that suffering isn't caused by events. It's caused by resistance to those events. Seneca put it simply, he who suffers before it is necessary suffers more than necessary. Look around you. The world is filled with people weighed down by disappointments that only exist because they expected something different. They wanted a perfect relationship, an easy life, constant happiness, and when reality didn't match the fantasy, they broke. But there is a way out. Lower your expectations and you set yourself free. Imagine holding a glass of water with an open palm. No tension, no struggle. The glass rests there, undisturbed. Now imagine gripping it tightly, squeezing, demanding it stay still. Your hand shakes, Your muscles strain, and soon the glass falls and shatters. Life is the same. The more you try to control it, the more it resists. But when you release your grip, you move with the flow of reality instead of against it. Think about a man who constantly expects others to respect him. He walks into a room, and the moment someone doesn't acknowledge him, he feels insulted. He carries that offense, lets it eat at him, lets it dictate his mood. But another man enters the same room with no such expectation. If people respect him, fine. If they don't, it changes nothing. His peace remains intact. This is the difference between a man enslaved by expectations and a man free from them. One is constantly disappointed, the other is unshaken. One is reactive, the other is in control. Most people misunderstand this concept. They think lowering expectations means having no ambition, no goals, no standards. That's not it. It means accepting that outcomes are uncertain. It means doing your best and detaching from results. It means understanding that life owes you nothing, and in that understanding, you gain everything. The strongest men are those who expect nothing from the world, but everything from themselves. They move forward without entitlement. They work hard, not because they expect success, but because they demand excellence from themselves. They love deeply, not because they expect something in return, but because it aligns with their character. They let go of illusions and embrace what is. So ask yourself, how many times has an expectation led to your suffering? How many times have you made yourself miserable over something you thought you deserved? Now, imagine the freedom of living without that weight. Imagine the power of moving through life, unattached, adapting, unstoppable. Because the man who lowers his expectations doesn't lower his standards, he raises his resilience. 7. Say no, own your time like a man. Every time you say yes to something unimportant, you say no to something that matters. Most people live as if their time is limitless. They give it away carelessly, agreeing to obligations they don't want, entertaining conversations that drain them, committing to things that bring no value. And then they wonder why they feel exhausted, unfulfilled, and out of control. A man who cannot say no is not in control of his life. He is a servant to others' demands, a puppet pulled by every request, every expectation, every external force that dictates his schedule. But a man who masters the word no, he reclaims his time, his focus, his power. The world will try to own you. It will flood you with distractions, with pressures, with people who expect you to bend to their will. If you are weak, you will comply, sacrificing your priorities for theirs. But a Stoic understands that his time is his own. He does not give it away freely. He guards it like a king protects his kingdom. Seneca once wrote, "People are frugal in guarding their personal property, but as soon as it comes to squandering time, they are most wasteful of the one thing in which it is right to be stingy." Your time is more valuable than money, more valuable than possessions. Because once it's gone, you never get it back. Imagine a man constantly saying yes. His schedule is packed, but not with things that fulfill him. He is running from meeting to meeting, helping people who don't appreciate him, attending events out of obligation, filling his life with other people's priorities. He tells himself he is being kind, responsible, a good friend, a good worker. But inside, he is drained, frustrated, resentful. He has no space left for himself. Now imagine another man. His schedule is clean. He is busy, yes, but only with what matters. He protects his energy. He chooses his commitments wisely. He does not waste time on things that do not align with his purpose. People respect him because he respects himself. He is not overwhelmed because he controls his time instead of letting it control him. One man is exhausted and pulled in every direction. The other is focused, powerful, and in command. The difference? One says yes to everything. The other knows when to say no. Think of your time like a bank account. Every hour is $1. If you let everyone take from it, you will soon be bankrupt. But if you spend wisely, invest in things that grow you, you become rich. Not in money, but in control, in fulfillment, in strength. Saying no is not selfish. Saying no is not rude. Saying no is discipline. If something doesn't align with your goals, say no. If someone demands more of you than you can give, say no. If a distraction threatens your progress, say no. Because the man who says yes to everything becomes a prisoner to everyone else. But the man who owns his time, he owns his life. 8. Embrace discomfort. Weak men chase comfort, strong men face challenges. Comfort is a trap. It lulls you into stagnation, weakens your resolve, and steals your potential. The modern world sells comfort as the ultimate goal. Soft beds, easy jobs, effortless entertainment. But ease does not create strength. Hardship does. A man who seeks constant comfort is a man who has surrendered his power. He avoids struggle, dodges difficulty, and runs from pain. And in doing so, he robs himself of growth. The Stoics understood this. Seneca wrote, "Difficulty strengthens the mind as labor does the body. Without resistance, muscles wither. Without challenge, the mind softens." Look at the men who command respect. They did not rise by chasing comfort. They were forged in adversity. Every great warrior, leader, and philosopher knew that true strength is built through hardship. Picture a blade. If left untouched, it dulls. But when sharpened against stone, it becomes deadly. A man is no different. He either embraces the grind or fades into mediocrity. The weak man wakes up and chooses what's easy. He sleeps in, avoids discomfort, indulges in pleasure. He tells himself he'll push harder tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. He remains soft, untested, and unprepared for life's inevitable storms. The strong man wakes up and chooses discipline. He steps into the cold, lifts the heavy weight, does the hard thing, not because it's comfortable, but because it makes him stronger. He understands that suffering is not the enemy. Weakness is. Pain reveals who you are. It strips away the illusion of control and exposes what you are truly made of. The modern world tells you to avoid pain at all costs. Take the shortcut, numb the discomfort, distract yourself. But the Stoics saw pain differently. They saw it as a teacher. Epictetus said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." Pain is inevitable, but how you respond to it is a choice. Most men flinch at pain. They retreat, complain, and look for a way out. But the man who chooses to endure develops something unshakable: resilience. Imagine two men thrown into the same hardship. Both lose their job, both face rejection, both encounter failure. One lets it break him. He drowns in self-pity, blames the world, and waits for someone to save him. The other embraces the challenge. He uses the pain, adapts, and emerges sharper. You have two choices in life: seek comfort and remain weak, or embrace discomfort and grow unbreakable. The Stoics believed that voluntary discomfort was a path to freedom. Marcus Aurelius practiced sleeping on the floor. Seneca fasted and wore simple clothes. They did not do this to suffer needlessly, but to remind themselves that they could endure anything. What happens when you make discomfort a daily habit? You become immune to the trivial pains that shake most people. You gain an edge. While others are paralyzed by setbacks, you adapt, push forward, and dominate. The man who never steps into discomfort will break the moment life tests him. But the man who embraces struggle daily becomes unshakable. Picture yourself as a flame. Weak men allow the winds of hardship to extinguish them. Strong men use the wind to grow stronger, burn brighter, and become unstoppable. Ask yourself, am I avoiding pain or am I using it? Am I chasing comfort or am I building resilience? Because the man who embraces discomfort doesn't just survive, he dominates. 9. Face your mortality. It will make you stronger. One day, you will take your last breath. Your hands will lose their strength, your voice will fade, your time will run out. And when that moment comes, will you be ready? Most people live as if they are immortal. They put off their dreams, delay their ambitions, and act as if they have unlimited time. They avoid thinking about death because it terrifies them. But a Stoic does not run from mortality. He embraces it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." If you truly understood that your time is limited, how differently would you live? Would you still waste hours on trivial distractions? Would you still hold on to resentment? Would you still hesitate to take action? Facing death does not create fear, it creates urgency. It forces clarity. It strips away the nonsense and makes you focus on what actually matters. Look around. Most men drift through life, waiting for the right moment, waiting for motivation, waiting for permission. They convince themselves that they will start living someday. But someday is a lie. You are not promised tomorrow. The only time you have is now. Imagine carrying a countdown clock in your pocket. Each second it ticks away, reminding you that time is slipping. Every moment wasted is a moment you will never get back. How much of your life has already been spent on things that do not matter? A Stoic understands that his days are numbered, and because of that, he moves with purpose. He does not hesitate, he does not delay. He lives fully, because he knows that one day he won't have the chance. Most people fear death because they are not truly living. They cling to comfort, avoid risks, and hesitate at every decision. But a man who has made peace with his mortality is unstoppable. He is not afraid of failure, because he knows failure is temporary, but regret is permanent. He is not afraid of judgment, because he knows opinions die with the people who hold them. He is not afraid of discomfort, because he understands that growth only happens through challenge. A soldier who enters battle, accepting his possible death, fights harder than the one trying desperately to survive. A man who knows he has nothing to lose becomes fearless. What would you do differently if you knew you only had a year left to live? Would you still waste time on meaningless distractions? Would you still seek validation from people who don't matter? Or would you focus only on what is important? You already have an expiration date. You just don't know when it is. A Stoic does not fear death because he has lived in a way that, when it comes, he is ready. He does not beg for more time. He has used his time well. Most men live as if time is infinite. They move through their days as if they have an unlimited supply of hours, wasting them on trivial arguments, pointless distractions, and temporary pleasures that add nothing to their legacy. They are like men who spend every coin they have, never thinking about the day the account runs empty. But a wise man, he values time more than gold. He does not trade it for things that do not matter. He does not waste it seeking approval, chasing validation, or dwelling on regrets. He moves with purpose. He protects his time like a warrior protects his kingdom. The Stoics had a practice called memento mori. Remember, you must die. They would reflect on death, not to be morbid, but to sharpen their perspective. When you remember that you are mortal, you stop living like you are invincible. You stop delaying. You stop fearing. You stop holding back. The next time you find yourself hesitating, remind yourself of this. One day you will not be here. That is not meant to scare you. It is meant to set you free. Because the man who faces his mortality doesn't just live, he dominates every second he has. 10. True peace comes from mastery, not control. Most men live under the illusion that peace comes from control. They believe that if they can manipulate their circumstances, force outcomes, and shape the world to fit their expectations, they will finally feel secure. But this is a lie. Control is fleeting. The moment something does not go as planned, frustration creeps in. The moment people act in ways you dislike, anger takes hold. The moment uncertainty enters your life, fear paralyzes you. A man who bases his peace on control is a man who will always be at war, because control is temporary, but uncertainty is permanent. A Stoic does not chase control. He masters himself instead. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot stop the storm, but you can learn to navigate through it. You cannot control how people treat you, but you can control how you respond. You cannot dictate every event in life, but you can master your mindset and become unshakable." Look around you. Most men spend their lives trying to control the uncontrollable. They try to make people like them. They try to force success to happen on their timeline. They try to shape every situation to their advantage. And when things don't go as expected, they break. Picture a man gripping a rope in a violent storm, trying desperately to stop the wind from blowing. The tighter he holds, the more exhausted he becomes. Eventually, he collapses, not because the wind was too strong, but because he fought a battle he was never meant to win. This is what happens when you try to control everything outside yourself. Now imagine another man standing firm in the storm, adjusting his footing, adapting to the wind rather than resisting it. He remains calm, composed, in control of himself. That is mastery. That is power. A man who has mastered himself is a man no one can break. If he loses money, he does not panic, because his peace was never dependent on wealth. If someone insults him, he does not react, because he controls his emotions, not the other way around. If he faces failure, he does not crumble, because he understands that setbacks are part of the process. This is real power, not in controlling others, but in controlling your reactions, your mindset, and your emotions. A king who rules a nation but is a slave to his emotions is weaker than a man with nothing who has mastered himself. A man who constantly seeks control over everything will forever be controlled by his circumstances. But a man who has control over himself, he is free. Imagine two men facing the challenges of life. One is like a rock, rigid and unyielding. He believes his strength comes from his ability to resist everything. But what happens when pressure builds? The rock cracks, breaks, and crumbles. The other man is like water. He does not resist obstacles. He flows around them, adapts, finds a new path. He does not break because he does not fight against what he cannot control. Most men choose to be the rock, stubborn, rigid, and eventually broken. But the Stoic chooses to be the water, unshakable, adaptable, unstoppable. What if no insult could trigger you? What if no failure could make you doubt yourself? What if no unexpected event could disturb your peace? You would move through life with unshakable confidence. You would adapt, adjust, and stay composed no matter what happened. You would be untouchable, not because the world bends to your will, but because you have mastered your response to it. This is where true peace is found, not in controlling the world, but in mastering yourself. So ask yourself, are you exhausting yourself trying to control the uncontrollable? Or are you building mastery over the one thing you truly own, yourself? Because the man who masters himself doesn't just find peace, he becomes unstoppable. Everything you seek, strength, confidence, clarity, and peace, does not come from controlling the world. It comes from mastering yourself. You cannot dictate every outcome, but you can control how you respond. You cannot stop adversity from coming, but you can build the resilience to withstand it. You cannot prevent pain, but you can transform it into power. This is what separates weak men from strong ones. Weak men react. Strong men decide. A Stoic does not waste his life chasing control over the uncontrollable. He does not depend on external validation, nor does he let fear dictate his choices. He does not crumble under pressure, because he understands that adversity is not an enemy, it is a teacher. You now have the blueprint. The only question is, will you use it? Each day, life will test you. Will you let emotions control you, or will you master them? Will you chase comfort, or will you embrace discomfort to grow? Will you waste time on things that do not matter, or will you live with purpose? Your power lies in the small decisions you make daily. Train your mind as you train your body. Strengthen your discipline. Build your emotional resilience. Accept that hardship is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. Now I want to hear from you. What is one challenge you've faced that forced you to grow? Tell me in the comments, because at the end of the day, you are the only one who can decide what kind of man you will become.